when you're ready, go ahead and come to standing. You can come near the top of the mat if you like, or wherever works for you. Take a moment, open your feet a comfortable distance width apart. Knees facing forward, second toes facing generally forward. And more importantly, even the knees and toes facing perfectly forward is knees pointing towards your second toes approximately, and generally, even if not perfectly facing forward. Then shifting the weight forward and back in your feet a bit. And settling into a place where the weight feels balanced between the front and the back of your feet. Maybe shifting the weight even a bit more to the back of the feet and wiggle your toes. With your next inhale, lift your toes up. Feel the arches lifting up with the toes, that engagement through the bottoms of the feet. Exhale, go ahead and release. Inhale, lift your toes and the arches up, keeping the toes and the arches lifting up. Root down through any part of your foot that is not an arch. Feel the leg muscles hugging to the bone, but a softness through the knee joint. Feel the muscles around the hips hugging in, including pelvic floor muscles lifting in and up. Ality just came in. Feel the low ribs hugging in and up. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back or standing Ality. Head and neck stacked above the rest of the spine. And then spread the toes nice and wide apart. And keeping the engagement through the arches, lower the toes back to the earth. Root from the hips down through the feet. Again, from those low ribs hugging in and up, from the core engagement, lengthen up to the crown of the head. Then soften just a little bit here, including your eyes. And if you'd like to close your eyes, you can go ahead and let your eyes just drift closed. Feel the breath flowing through you. The air on the nostrils, through the lungs, and the lungs expanding out on the inhales and softening back in on the exhales. And as you're ready, you can start to lengthen and deepen your breath, balancing out the inhales and the exhales. And with every exhale from the hips, continue to root down into the earth. And with every inhale, feel your torso expanding, including your spine lifting up out of your hips and all the way out to the crown of the head. Breathe. And let your awareness rest in the flow of the breath. Letting that breath move you as it flows through you. Throughout class, I invite you to keep this connection to the breath. So if at any point your thoughts start to drift or wander, at that moment, just bring your awareness back to the breath. I also invite you to notice how you feel. We've been standing for a little bit now. How does that feel in your body? Are there little micro adjustments you can do, little shifts to make things feel better? Because throughout class, I want you to stay aware of yourself, even when things don't feel comfortable. And if there are things that make things a little bit easier, go ahead and do those. And if you need to take a pose out or to do something else, feel free to do that too. Because even when what I say sounds like a command, that's just shorthand. It's an invitation. Feel free to make the practice your own. All I ask you to do is to stay connected to the flow of the breath and to move with the connection a little bit. So breathe. We will start with an Om. If you'd like to join in, I'll exhale, inhale, and then Om. Exhaling. Inhale deeply. Take a deep, full breath in. Gently bow your head to the thumbs if you'd like. And then with your next exhale, releasing your hands, softly open the eyes. Feeling that breath flowing through you, moving through the shoulders. With the next inhale, the arms can come wide and reach up high. Exhale and lower the arms to the sides. Knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale, bend your knees. Act like you're sitting back in a chair, lifting the arms up as much as feels good for you. Exhale, come back up. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale, lower the arms to the sides. Inhale, Utkatasana, bending the knees, sitting back. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Right hand grabs the left wrist. Exhale, leaning over to the right side. Inhale, up to center, left hand, right wrist. Exhale to the left. Inhale, up to center, right hand, left wrist. Exhale to the right. Inhale, up to center, left hand, right wrist. Exhale to the left. Inhale to center. Exhale to the right. Inhale to center. Exhale to the left. Inhale up to center. Exhale the hands to the hips. Root from the hips into the earth. Inhale, feel extension through the sides of the waist. Then wiggle the elbows and the shoulders towards each other on the back. And just feel the bottom tips of the shoulders curling your chest just a little bit up to the sky here. At the same time, make sure your tailbone stays lengthening down. Breathe. And then inhale, lifting up through the chest, coming back upright, but keeping a bit of a lift through the sternum, shoulder blades a little bit on the back. And then from here, exhale, bend your knees, but instead of moving the hips back, just drop them straight down. And then inhale and come back up. Exhale, bending the knees, just dropping the hips straight down instead of moving them back. Exhale, come back up. Inhale and bend your knees here, and then with your next exhale, tuck your tailbone under. And inhale and tilt the hips back. Bring the hands to your hip creases. Exhale, tuck your hips under. Notice how those hip creases disappear as you tuck your tailbone under. And then inhale and tilt the hips back. And notice how your hip creases deepen. Exhale, tuck your tailbone under. Inhale and tilt the hips back. And then just come into a small tuck under of the tailbone. Hands back to your hips. And just rocking the hips from side to side here. Lifting one hip up and then dropping the opposite hip. Coming back to center here, and you can go ahead and straighten the legs, and if you're facing a different direction, go ahead and come and face towards the skinny end of the mat. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, rooting from the hips into the earth. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, pour the spine forward over the legs, hands to legs, blocks or floor. Inhale, you can straighten the legs if you want to, keeping your torso relatively close to the hips. And then exhale, bending your knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale, only straighten the legs as much as feels good for you. Exhale and bend the knees. Inhale, straighten, and you can hold here. And again, feel free to use blocks. Feel free to bring hands to legs. Feel free to come to where it's comfortable for you. Breathe. And then exhale, go ahead and bend your knees. And with your knees bent, if it works for your back, scoop your tailbone under and roll vertebrae by vertebrae all the way up to standing. Once you're all the way up, you can straighten the legs. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, shoulder blades on the back. Curl the chest up and looking up. Exhale, shoulders roll forward. Curl the chest down, looking down. Inhale, shoulder blades on the back, lifting up through the chest, looking up. Exhale, shoulder blades forward, looking down. Inhale, shoulder blades on the back, looking up. Exhale, neutral, which again means chest a little bit lifted, shoulder blades slightly on the back. Hands to the thighs. So feel those hip creases, which means your thighs are moving back a little bit. Lengthen the tailbone down. And then inhale, move your hips forward towards the toes without losing your hip creases. So inner thighs move back, lifting the low back up out of the hips. And then exhale and move the hips back over the heels. Inhale, move the hips forward through the toes, but keep your inner thighs moving back. Hip creases stay there. Lift your chest up out of the hips. Exhale, hips back towards the heels. Inhale, hips move forward, low back lifts up. Breathing here. Exhale, hips back over the heels, hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Shift your weight into your right foot, left foot goes back, medium or big step back. Right knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards your second toe. Bring your hands to your hips here, and as much as possible, level out the hips, which for most people will mean dropping your left hip down a little bit. Stretch the low back out of the hips here, and then inhale, tilt the hips more upright if that feels okay for you. Only as much as feels good for you, and that might mean you have to lift your hips up higher and do some adjustments. Press down through your hips, move the elbows and shoulders towards each other here, and then curling the chest up to the sky, feeling the shoulder blades on the back here. Breathe. Virabhadrasana, one variation. Back heel can be up or down. And then inhale, coming back upright through the chest, press down through your right foot, step the left foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana, weight to your left foot, right foot goes back. Left knee on top of the ankle, hands to your hips. You might need to drop that right hip a little bit to level the hips out. Lengthen the spine, and then maybe tilting the hips upright, but only as much as works for you. Press down through the hips for the low back lifting up. Shoulders and elbows might move towards each other, and then maybe curling the chest a bit towards the sky. Breathing here, nice full deep breaths. And then inhale, come back upright, press down to that left foot, step the right foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach apart. Exhale and fold, hands to legs, blocks or floor. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold, bend the knees deeply, get the hands to the ground and make your way back into a downward facing dog. Pressing those hips up, back away from you. You can bend the right knee if you want to here, stretch out to the left leg. And then bending the left knee, stretching out to the right leg. Bending and straightening the legs, moving the hips from side to side. Remember, whenever you're weight bearing in your hands, to try to shift the weight forward out of the wrists if you can, towards your fingertips a little bit more. And then with your next exhale, lowering down to all fours, coming to your hands and knees. Once you're in all fours, inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, arch the back, head and tailbone up to the sky. And if you want to, continue to do that, but start to draw circles on the wall back behind you with your tailbone, so your spine starts to circle laterally. You might need to keep that elbow soft to let the spine move laterally. Exhale, rounding the back. Inhale and arching. And if you are doing circles with the hips, remember to change those circles in the other direction. Breathe. And then with your next inhale, come back to center. Exhale, lower down to your elbows. If you have a block, you might want to grab it and put it between your hands. If you don't, then hands can stay down, hands can be together, hands can be interlaced. Here, with the elbows underneath the shoulders, exhale, keep your hips fairly still, but soften the upper back, making a valley between the shoulders, feeling the shoulders come on the back, the shoulder blades. And then inhale, rounding the upper back, making a hill between the shoulder blades, feeling the shoulders move off the back. Keep your hips pretty stable. Exhale, soften between the shoulder blades on the back, making a valley. Inhale, round between the shoulder blades off the back, making a hill. Inhale, soften between the shoulder blades, feel those shoulder blades on the back. And keeping your shoulder blades on the back, just try to move your low ribs in towards your spine a little bit so your core is engaged. Breathe here. And then you can put the block over to the side for a moment and come into a child's pose. Feet together, knees apart, hips towards the floor. Hips towards your feet, rather. Head towards the floor. Breathe. Ease your way forward onto your belly into Makrasana variation. So hands making a pillow for your head, and gently rock your hips from side to side. Coming back into center with your hips rooting down into the earth. Bring the arms to either side, tip the chest. Arms straight, fingers pointing towards toes. When you're ready, pressing down through the hips. Inhale, float up through the shoulders, maybe the chest too. Exhale, lower back down, feeling the shoulder blades on the back as you lift up. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale, lifting up here. And then with that lift, holding here, bringing the hips down, you can flip the hands forward, hands underneath the biceps, fingers facing forward. Act like you're going to drag the hands back and feel the spine lengthening out of the hips. And then keeping the hips fairly stable, you can move the torso from side to side a bit here. Coming back into center, and then making your way back into a child's pose. Breathe. Inhale up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, lengthen the spine nice and long with the right leg up back behind you. Exhale, right knee into the nose, rounding the back. Actually, should be this side. Inhale, lengthen the right leg back behind you. Exhale, right knee into the nose, rounding. Inhale, extend, trying to keep your hips fairly level. And then exhale the right foot forward towards the right hand. If it doesn't quite make it, grab the foot and pull the foot the rest of the way forward. Both hands can be inside the right leg. Hands a bit in front of the shoulders. Inhale, stretch your spine nice and long. And you can gently move the hips from side to side here if that feels good for you. Eventually squaring the hips towards the earth so the hips are equidistant away from the ground. And with your next exhale, bring the right hand to your right knee, turning the chest to the right side. Feel free to stay here. Feel free to curl the left toes under and lift that left knee up. Feel free to lift the right hand up toward the sky, coming into your twist in a lunge. Breathe. Taking a moment, trying to line the head and neck up with the rest of the spine. And then exhale, go ahead, lower the right hand and the left knee down and step the right foot back all fours. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, lengthen, left leg lifts up. Exhale, left knee into the nose, rounding the back. Inhale, stretching long. Exhale, left knee into the nose. Inhale, open up. Exhale, left foot forward towards your left hand, sliding wiggle, scooting both hands inside the left leg. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long, moving the hips, if you'd like, a little bit from side to side with your exhale. Breathing here. And then squaring your hips towards the earth, both hips equidistant away from the ground. With your next exhale, the left hand to the left knee, twisting to the left. Feel free to stay here. Feel free to lift the left hand up. Feel free to lift the right knee up. Your choice. Breathing wherever you're at. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then exhale, go ahead and release. Step the left foot back, all fours. Inhale, stretch the spine long. Exhale, shoulder blades on the back. So just a little bit of a valley between the shoulder blades. Bottom hips hug in. Curl the toes under, lift the knees up, stretch the hips back, downward facing dog. Keeping that little valley between the shoulder blades and the bottom tips of the shoulder blades hugging in. Feel the tops of the thighs pressing back. So again, right below where your hip creases are, that lengthens back. At the same time, your armpits stretch forward. Inner edges of the armpits as much as outer. Breathing here and downward facing dog. Look forward at your hands, bend your knees, walk, step, or jump the feet forward towards the hands. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Inhale, arms come wide, reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale your hands to your hips. With your hands on the hips, bend the knees a little bit, dropping the hips straight down. And then this time here, instead of lifting the hips up and down, practicing the press from side to side. So trying not to lift the hips up and down, but trying to keep your chest in center and just pressing the hips from side to side. Come back to center with your hips and try to press the chest from side to side. And then coming back into center with the chest, go ahead and straighten the legs. Hands to the tops of the thighs, press the thighs back, lengthen the tailbone down, keeping those hip creases. Inhale, let the hips move forward. Lift the low back up out of the hips. Start to move the shoulder blades on the back here. You can bring your hands to your hips, rooting the hips down even more, and using those bottom tips of the shoulder blades and curl the chest up toward the sky. But even though your hips and your leg bones move forward, your inner thighs feel like they're moving back to the wall behind you a little bit. Breathe. Inhale, lifting up through the chest. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Then when you're ready, shift your weight into your right foot and take a medium or a big step back with the left foot. More of a medium than a big, really. Hands to your hips, square the hips towards the front. Then inhale and lengthen the spine nice and long. Exhale, tilting the hips, fold forward, but only to when you feel like your back might round. When you're in that place where you feel like your back might round, even out your hips. So again, making sure the left hip isn't higher than the right, and stretch your spine nice and long out of the hips here. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then inhale, pressing down to your feet, come all the way up, bending that right knee, step the left foot forward. As you're ready, step back with the right foot. Squaring your hips towards the front. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, tilting the hips, folding forward. Stopping before your back rounds, making sure the right hip isn't much higher than the left. And then stretch your spine nice and long out of the hips, using that core. Nice, full, deep breath. You can move the shoulders a little bit on the back here if that feels better for you. Legs are relatively straight, which means if you need to soften that left knee a little bit, you can. And then pressing down to the feet, come all the way up to standing. Go ahead and step the right foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Inhale, stretch the arms forward out in front of you. And then exhale, feel the shoulders moving towards each other on the back, shoulder blades on the back. Inhale, take the shoulder blades off the back, shoulder blades off the back. Exhale, arm bones into the shoulder socket, shoulder blades on the back. Inhale, shoulder blades off the back. Exhale, arm bones into the shoulder socket, shoulder blades on the back. Feel the low ribs hugging in, feel the tops of the thighs moving back. Bend your elbows here, and then bring your hands towards each other, keeping your shoulder blades on the back. Then with your next exhale, try to bring your elbows in towards each other, keeping the shoulder blades on the back. Inhale and open them back up. Exhale, trying to bring that elbows in towards each other. Inhale, open back up. Exhale, try to bring the elbows in toward each other. Breathing here the whole time. The armpits are staying deep. The shoulder blades are staying on the back. And you're lifting up, out through the crown of the head as you breathe. And then exhale, go ahead and release and do some big, juicy shoulder rolls. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and fold. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Bend the knees, step downward facing dog. Inhale, shoulders forward over the wrist, plank pose. Exhale, lower the knees, point the toes. Inhale, point the chest forward through the shoulders, shoulders back, hips forward and down. Exhale, hips back toward your heels. Inhale, pull the chest forward, shoulders back, hips forward and down. Exhale, hips back toward your heels. Inhale, only moving in both directions as much as feels good for your body. Exhale, hips back toward your heels again. So one more time, inhale, chest forward, shoulders back, hips forward and down. And then with your shoulders on the back, bend the elbows, lower all the way down. Root down through your hips, float up through your hands. Inhale, curl the chest up to the sky here with the shoulders on the back. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale and curl up. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale and curl up. Keep the curl through the chest. Exhale, lower the hands down. Act like you're going to drag your hands back, point the chest forward. Inhale, you can lift up here. Exhale, you can lower back down. Inhale, maybe lifting up here. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale and lift. Exhale and lower. And then inhale, prop yourself up on your elbows. Elbows underneath the shoulders. Cross the left arm over in front of you, rolling over onto your left side. Keeping this left shoulder on the back. You can bend the right knee, stretching the right knee back for the wall behind you. If you want to grab the right foot, you can, breathing here. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then exhale, go ahead and release, and second side. Cross the right arm in front of you, right shoulder blades on the back. Bend the left knee, stretch the left knee back for the wall behind you. Maybe holding on to the foot, maybe not. Breathe in here. And then exhale, go ahead and release. Come back into a child's pose. If you have a block nearby, have it nearby. If you don't have a block, that's fine. Breathe. Inhale up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine long, lift the right leg up. Exhale the right foot forward towards your right hand, sliding, wiggle, scooting. If you want to put more padding under the left knee, you can also take a moment here and roll up more mat under that left knee. Back toes can be flexed or pointed. If they're pointed, straight back behind you though. From here, go ahead and walk your hands up to the right thigh. Hug in from your feet to your hips, and then when you feel stable, bring your hands to your hips. Press the hips down, lengthen the low back up out of the hips for a moment here. So notice what this feels like. Then exhale, go ahead, soften a little bit. Grab the block if you have it. If you don't, just do the motions without the block. Bring the hands forward out in front of you. Block the long way between the hands. And then here, arm bones into the shoulder socket, shoulder blades on the back. With your next inhale, start to lift your arms up. Trying not to grab the block so much with your fingers, just pressing your arms in towards each other. At the same time, keeping those shoulder blades on the back. If you want to from here, you can, though, curl the chest a little bit up towards the sky, breathing here. So really trying to hug the forearms in. And then exhale, go ahead and release that side and second side. So stepping the right foot back. Coming to all fours. Inhale, the left leg lifts up. Exhale, left foot forward towards your left hand. Again, if you want to take a moment and do extra padding for knees, that's always not a bad idea. And then as you're ready, bring your hands up to the left leg. Hands to your hips. When you're ready, level out the hips, root the hips down. Feel the low back lifting up out of the hips. Also, take a moment and just make sure one hip isn't higher than the other. And then go ahead and release just a little bit. If you're using the block, grab the block, long way. Arms forward out in front of you, shoulder blades on the back. And with your shoulder blades on the back, arms squeezing in, so not so much holding the block, but just hugging your arms in. Lift your arms up, breathing here. And you might not be able to lift your arms all the way up. My bones stop where my arms go. If you want to, though, you can curl the chest a bit up toward the sky here and breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then exhale, go ahead and release. Unfurl your mat. Stepping the left foot back, downward facing dog. Look forward at your hands, bend your knees, walk your feet towards the hands or the hands towards the feet. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and pull. Inhale, nice long spine, arms come wide, reach all the way up toward the sky. Exhale. exhale, hands together in front of the heart, rooting from the hips into the earth. And then inhale, open your arms wide to the side, as wide as you want to go. Exhale, bring them back in. So if you want to bring the hands back behind the shoulders, that's okay. Inhale, open your arms wide. Exhale, and bring them back in. Inhale, open your arms wide. Cross the right elbow over the left. And here, even a little bit of shoulder blades on the back. Now, they might not be as much on the back as they were before, but a little bit of engagement. And then from here, exhale and bring the back of the hands towards each other. Inhale and open them apart. Exhale, bring the back of the hands towards each other. Inhale, open apart. Exhale, back of the hands towards each other. Maybe wrapping fingers, maybe not. You can stay here, so this is an option wherever here is, and here might be here, and that's fine. But if everything feels good for you, inhale and lift up a little bit to the chest here. Exhale, curl the chest a bit down, but trying to keep the shoulder blades on the back a little bit. Inhale, curl the chest up, and then you can do gentle circles through the chest with your arms in this position if you want. Breathe. And remember, if you are doing circles, do them in both directions. Feel the breath moving through you. And then go ahead and come back to center. Inhale, the arms open nice and wide. Exhale, left elbow over the right. Shoulder blades a little bit on the back. And then exhale, back of your hands in towards each other. Inhale and open up. Exhale, back of your hands in towards each other. Inhale, open up. Exhale, back of the hands in towards each other. Maybe wrapping fingers, maybe not. If you want to, inhale, lift up through the chest. Exhale, curl the chest down. The whole time shoulders are a little bit on the back. Inhale, lift up. And then circling through the chest if that feels good for you. Breathe. And then go ahead and change directions of the circles. Coming back into center here. Exhale, release the hands. Do some shoulder rolls here. If you want to do some shoulder rolls forward, do that as well. And then go ahead and come and turn towards a wide face angle side of your mat and open your feet nice and wide apart. And then from here, your left toes will turn in towards your right toes a little bit. The right toes will turn all the way out to the right, hands to the hips. Right knee tracks towards your second toe. Exhale and bend that right knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale, bend the right knee, holding the right knee bent. Bring your hands to the tops of the thighs by where your hip creases are. So maybe you can feel the hip creases with your thumb. Press your thighs back, deepening those hip creases, but be careful the right knee doesn't fall inside your foot. Keep this, bring your hands to your low ribs. Draw the low ribs in and up, moving the low back, but again, without losing those hip creases. And then if you want to, open your hands into a T and look over the right fingers. Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. Nice, full, deep breaths. Keeping the right knee tracking towards the second toe. Inhale and straighten the right leg only as much as feels good for you. Exhale, dropping the right hip or leaning into the right hip, stretching the underside of the body long. Right hand can come down to wherever works for you. If it's on the shin, you push the shin up into your hand a little bit. Left hand can stay where it is or lift up to the sky. Take a moment, if it doesn't bother you, and gently move your head around. So the shoulder blades are gently moving in towards each other on the back to help that action be possible. Eventually lining the head and neck up with the rest of the spine as you breathe in Trikonasana, triangle pose. Press down through your feet, come all the way back up. Right toes turn towards left toes. Left toes turn out. Left knee tracks towards the second toe. Exhale and bend. Inhale and straighten. If your knee bends past your ankle a lot, that's a sign to open the feet wider apart. Exhale and bend. So your left knee is approximately on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe. Hands to the thighs, to the hip crease area. And pressing back, making those hip creases deeper without letting that left knee fall inside. And then hands to your low ribs, keeping what you just did with the legs. Draw those low ribs in and up, bringing a fullness to the low back, about where your kidneys are. And then hands into a T position, looking over the left fingers. Nice, full, deep breaths here. Warrior 2. And then inhale, you can straighten that left leg. Exhale, leaning into the left hip. Stretch the underside of your waistline nice and long. Keep that as you gently lower the left hand down. Left shin presses up into your hand. Right hand can stay where it is or reach up toward the sky. And with your shoulders gently moving towards each other on the back, maybe moving your head around a bit here, just carefully. Just noticing what different positions feel like for your head and neck. And eventually trying to bring the head in a place that feels nice and centered. Breathe. Press down to the feet, come all the way back up. Turn all 10 toes to face the long end of the mat. Hands to your hips. Inhale and lengthen the spine nice and long with your knees a bit soft. Exhale, start to tilt the hips. Notice when your back wants to start to round. Pause for a moment there. Inhale and just stretch the spine long. And then exhale, go ahead, let the back gently round, but try to keep space in between the vertebrae. And then feel free to stay here, or maybe lift the hips up a little bit higher. Feel free to keep your hands on the hips. Release the hands to someplace on the legs or to the floor. Whatever feels like a good idea for you. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then when you're ready, hands to the hips, shoulders on the back. Inhale, nice long spine all the way back up. Bend your knees, lean a little bit forward at your hips. Bring your hands to the thighs, and then turn out from your hips. So your knees and your toes face out to the side, but your knees are still tracking about towards the second toe. Hands are back on your thighs, leaning forward a bit. And then just gently move from side to side here, gently pressing the thighs back. And you can draw circles back on the wall behind you with your hips. Just do some free movement, really. Settling the hips into center as much as feels comfortable for you. Again, hands to the tops of the thighs to the hip crease. Press them back. Hands to the low ribs. Draw the low ribs in and up, maybe coming a little bit more upright as you do so. And then maybe bringing your hands into a cactus position, breathing here. A nice, full, deep breaths. You can move a little bit here too if you want to. It's probably smaller movements than this for me anyway. And then come back to center. Keep a little bit of softness to your knees, but straighten the legs some. And heel toe your feet in towards each other. Shake out the legs. And turn and face the skinny into the mat. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through. You root from the hips into the earth. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and fold. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale your hands to your hips. Press down to the hips. Lengthen the low back out of the hips. Elbows and shoulders toward each other. Curl the chest to the sky. If you want your hips to move forward towards your toes, you can. But feel the inner thighs moving back. And lift the low back up out of the hips. Standing back bend. Breathing here. And then inhale, lift up to the chest. Come back up, right? Shift your weight into your right foot. Left foot back. Big or medium step. Right knee on top of the ankle, back heel can be up or down. Level out the hips, root the hips down. Inhale, open your arms wide, and then exhale, the left elbow crosses over the right. You can wrap hands or do whatever works for you here. Shoulders on the back here. Lift the low back up out of the hips. And again, feel the bottom tips of the shoulder blades on the back, and maybe curl the chest up toward the sky here. Breathe. And then inhale, come back up, press down to the right foot, left foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath. Exhale, hands to your hips, bending your knees, big step back with the right foot, left knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards the second toe. Root down to the hips, feel the low back lifting up, hips squared. Inhale, open the arms nice and wide. Exhale, right elbow over the left. Hands can be wide, back of the hands together, hands can wrap. Shoulder blades a little bit on the back as you start to lift the low back up out of the hips. And maybe curl the chest a bit towards the sky here. Breathe. And then inhale and come back up. Press down to that left foot. Step the right foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart. Shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the side. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Breathing here, holding Utkatasana for a little bit. Trying to lift the low back up out of the hips. And then this will take a few breaths, but we won't take too terribly long here. Keep on breathing as you start to slide the hips back more, bringing the spine more parallel to the ground, feeling the back lengthening out the hips, and then slowly start to tilt the hips up toward the sky more. Hands reach way forward out in front of you, and then eventually hands might come to the ground or the block. If you want to, you can walk your hands closer towards your feet and gently let the back round and fold. You do not have to, though. Inhale, slide your hands up the legs and lengthen. Exhale, slide down and fold. Bend the knees deeply, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, shoulders forward over the wrist, plank pose. Exhale, make your way to your belly, however works for you. So feel free to lower the knees down, shoulder blades on the back, and just come down to your belly. Press down to your hips, knees face down. Pull the chest forward through the shoulders here. Feel free to stay here low. Or if you want to, keep pulling the chest forward through the shoulders and lifting up. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale, pulling forward, maybe lifting up. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale, pull forward, maybe lift up. Exhale, lower back down. Prop yourself up on your elbows, elbows underneath the shoulders. Legs relatively close together. Press so strongly down to the hips with the shoulders on the back that when you bend the right knee, the low back doesn't contract on you. And then inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend the left knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale, bend the right knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale, bend the left knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale, bend the right knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale, bend the left knee. Inhale and straighten. Go ahead, open your feet outer hip distance width apart, but knees still face down. Root down through the hips and bend both knees. And then from here, you can point and flex the feet if you want to. You can move those ankles around a bit freely. And then changing the direction you're moving the ankles in. But I forget sometimes when I'm trying to think about that. Come back to center and come into a child's pose. Inhale, come up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, lengthen the spine long, lift the left leg up, back behind you. And then exhale, step the left foot forward towards your hand, sliding, wiggle, scooting. Okay, we're gonna have options here. First thing though is left knee is approximately on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe, and right knee is as far back as comfortable. And you can always do regular padding up of the back knee. But if you have a block, or a pillow or a really thick blanket, but you really almost want something that stays a little stable for this one, maybe slide that under the right knee. And then walk your way up right here. So if you're not used to this, it might feel a little bit different for you. From here, leaning a little bit forward, so letting your elbows bend through the torso, maybe see how it feels to bend that right knee. And then with the block, your foot's a little bit closer. So if you tried this with your knee on the floor and it's a little bit harder for you, sometimes on the block will bring you up high enough that you can reach back for that back foot. So just kind of a different thing. And then exhale and release. And the foam blocks are also cushiony, so that's also nice. And then switching sides. So when you're ready, right foot can come forward outside the hands. Slide the left knee back, right knee on top of ankle. And again, if you want to, maybe stick a block under the back knee. And then when you feel stable, hands can come up to your thigh. And then leaning a little bit forward. So it's easier if you're not perfectly upright here. Bending that back knee, and feel free to stay there. Or again, maybe on the block, it brings that foot close enough that reaching the foot becomes a little bit easier. And if you'd rather, again, do this on the floor, that's fine. Breathing wherever you're at. And then exhale, go ahead and release. Step that foot back. Come to all fours. Inhale, lengthen the spine here, and then when you feel stable, lift the right leg up, left arm forwards, trying to keep your hips fairly level, core engaged. And then exhale, And then exhale, go ahead and release. And then left leg, right arm. Breathing here. Nice full deep breaths. And then exhale, go ahead and release and come into a child's pose. Breathe. Come up to sitting. With your legs forward out in front of you, knees and toes pointing up to the sky. Hands back behind you. Root down through the legs, lift up through the low back, open through the chest, open through the throat, breathing here. And then coming up to your fingertips, walking your fingertips forward, trying to keep the low back lifting up out of the hips. And then exhale and soften a bit. Bend the right knee into the chest. If you want, you can cross the right foot over the left leg. Hugging that right knee in, sitting up nice and tall. Right hand back behind you. If you'd like to take the left arm across the leg, you can. Even here, feel the shoulder blades a bit onto the back as you twist to the right. And twists are one of the things that initiates the twist is the left shoulder pressing forward and turning you to the right. So feel that left shoulder doing that action. And then inhale, go ahead, unwind. Bring both hands back behind you. Keeping your right leg crossed over, lift your right foot up a bit and let the right thigh just settle a bit more towards the ground. Look at your right ankle. Make sure you're not twisting your foot towards the sky or sickling the ankle. Stretch to the inner edge of the ankle. If you can, have your right ankle above the left knee. But if you can't, that's fine too. Bend the left knee a little bit and gently rock your hips from side to side. So, if you want to intensify the stretch, and you don't have to, you can walk, if your foot's above your knee, the bottom foot in more to intensify the hip stretch. So it's eye of the needle, it's just sitting instead of on your back. Eventually letting the hips unwind into center, sitting up nice and tall here. Breathe. And then exhale, go ahead and release. Uncrossing the right leg, bend the left knee. If you want to, you can cross the left foot over. Hugging onto that left knee, sit up nice and tall. Left hand back behind you, right arm across. And again, feeling the right shoulder blade on the back, pressing the chest forward and turning you to the left. Breathing here. And then inhale, unwind both hands back behind you. Lift the left leg up. Open the left hip or the left knee a little bit to the left. Bend the right knee and gently moving the hips a bit from side to side here. And if you want to, you can start to walk that right foot closer in, but only going to where works for you. And then coming into center and trying to extend through the spine a bit as you hold this position. Breathe. Releasing, sliding that leg forward. Bring the soles of your feet together. Let your knees open apart. Holding on to your ankles. And I did that little thing where I lifted my hips up and moved my tailbone back a little bit because it was tucking under. So I untucked my tailbone. Holding on to the shins or the ankles, pulling up with your shins or the ankles, feeling the inner thighs relaxing down as you sit up nice and tall. And then go ahead and let your feet slide forward and fold. And by the way, some of you might know this, if you have a block, sometimes this pose feels even better if you're hugging the feet with a block to activate the legs. And the block can be, the skinnier directions are easier. The wider you make the block, the more intense the hip stretch is. And go ahead and come all the way up. Have a block someplace where you can grab it on your back, and we're actually going to come straight to our backs from here. So making your way onto your back. Hug the knees into the chest, coming into a ball, gently rocking. And then letting go of your knees and drawing circles on the ceiling with the knees in one direction, massaging out the hips and the low back. And then draw circles on the ceiling with the knees in the other direction. Bridge pose number 1. With your knees bent, lower the feet to the ground, feet outer hip distance apart, feet relatively close to the hips. Arms along the sides, palms face down. Feel the feet nice and heavy and rooted. Feel your hips for right now, nice and heavy and rooted. With your next inhale, move the shoulders a bit towards your ears, and then wiggle the shoulder blades on the back so they're nice and heavy and rooted. And with your chin in neutral, the back of the head is pressing down. That's nice and heavy and rooted. Keeping this rooted, these actions, lift up through the chest. And if bridge is not appropriate for you, you would stay here. But if you're okay to do so, press down through the feet, stretch your knees forward, and inhale and float the hips up. Exhale and lower them back down. Inhale, stretch your knees forward, hips float up. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale, stretch your knees forward, hips float up. Hold here. Press down to the inner and outer edges of the feet. Stretch your knees forward. Stretch your hips forward. Press down through your hands. Wiggle the shoulder blades a little bit closer together. Lift up through the chest. And feel the chest stretching in the opposite direction of your hips as you breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then exhale and go ahead and release. Bring the hands to the tops of the thighs. Press the tops of the thighs away from you, lengthening out through the low back as you gently sway the knees from side to side. And again, if you don't have a block, you just do the arm motions without a block. But if you have a block, grab a block between your hands. And again, not holding the block so much with your fingers unless you need to, but just pressing the arms in towards each other so the block stays there. And from here, exhale, press the shoulder blades down into the ground, shoulder blades on the back. Inhale, lift the shoulders away from the ground, shoulder blades off the back. Exhale, press the shoulder blades down into the ground, shoulder blades on the back. Chin is in neutral, head presses down. Inhale, shoulder blades off the back. Exhale, shoulder blades on the back. With the shoulder blades on the back, feet outer hip distance width apart, root down through your feet. Press down through the back of the head with the chin in neutral and feel your chest lifting up. And then if you want to, stretch your knees forward and float the hips up here. Breathe. A nice full deep breath, stretching the hips and the knees forward, lifting up to the chest and stretching that back, shoulders and back of the head rooting down with your chin in neutral. Exhale, lower the hips back down. Lower the block down for just a moment. Hands to the tops of the thighs. Press the thighs away from you, moving the hips a bit from side to side. Come back to center with your hips. Grab the block between your hands. Stretch your arms up toward the ceiling. With the block pressing the hands into the block. Shoulder blades on the back. With your shoulder blades staying on the back, inhale, stretch your arms up overhead. Exhale, stretch the arms back toward the ceiling. Inhale, stretch your arms up overhead. Exhale, stretch your arms back towards the ceiling. Inhale, stretch your arms up overhead. Feel the core engage and lengthening out to the crown of the head and the arms. And then exhale, bring the hands back up to the ceiling. And maybe try to slide the block so it's more at your wrist. So again, it's harder for you to hold. Pressing your arms in towards each other to keep the block in between your wrists. Shoulder blades on the back. And now exhale, bend your elbows, maybe tapping your fingers to the ground behind you. Maybe not quite getting there, and that's fine. And then inhale and straighten. But the whole time you're hugging your forearms in, keeping the block in place. Exhale and bend the elbows. Shoulder blades stay on the ground. Inhale and lift up. Exhale and bend your elbows. Inhale and lift up. Take the block back between your hands so it's not quite as challenging. Press the shoulders down, lift up through the chest, back of the head presses down, feet press down, stretch your knees forward, float the hips up. Hips and chest stretch in opposite directions, and then go ahead and bend your elbows here, trying to tap the fingers towards the ground. Inhale and straighten. Exhale, bending your elbows, trying to tap the fingers down. Inhale and straighten. Exhale, bend your elbows, trying to tap the fingers down. Inhale and straighten. Go ahead and lower the hips down. Place the block over to the side. Bring the hands to the tops of the thighs. Press the thighs away from you, gently swaying the knees from side to side. Come back into center with your hips. Grab the block at the lowest height. Lift your hips up and slide the block, if it works for you, underneath your hips. And again, if you don't have a block, it's fine. Hips are just on the ground. Or you can make a stack of books or use something small to slide your hips under. So block is either under your tailbone or under the sacrum. Different people like different spots. You can play with where you like. Bring the arms just into an airplane position, palms face up. Wiggle the shoulders underneath you a bit here. Breathe. Letting yourself release into a bit of a restorative bridge, but we're not going to stay restorative for long, just a heads up. Okay. Go ahead, stretch your arms towards the ceiling. Press the shoulder blades into the ground, lifting up through the chest, stretching long through your knees. Bend your elbows, bringing the hands to either side of the head. And if you can, you might be on fingertips here, your fingers might face away from your head, but if you can, turn your fingers towards your feet and try to see if you can bring your palms down. And then pressing the shoulder blades into the ground here, I want you to see if you can hug the forearms in towards each other. Breathe. Feel really, really free to keep your hips on the block, or if you want to, stretch your knees and lift your hips up off the block. Feel really, really free to stay here, or if you want to, keep lifting up to the chest, keep hugging the forearms in, and maybe pressing the chest forward, rolling to the top of the head, or lifting into a will. But the whole time, the forearms stay hugging in, and the shoulder blades stay on the back. And then exhale, go ahead and lower back down. Bring the arms back to airplane position, just resting here. And then if you're using the block, slide the block out from underneath you. Put the block over to the side, hands to the tops of the thighs. Press the thighs away from you, swaying the knees a little side to side. And then come into center here. Stretch the left leg straight along the ground. Left knee and toe points up to the sky, rooting down through that left hip, left thigh, left leg. With your right knee bent, hug the right knee in towards your right armpit. Breathe. And if it bothers your low back or your knee to keep the left leg straight, you can bend that left knee, but you try to keep the left hip rooted and the left heel rooted in that case. Feel free to stay here or grab the belly of the right thigh with your hands, trying to keep the shoulders in the back of the head grounded. Press the right leg out into your hands and maybe straightening that right leg however much feels good for you. You can point and flex the right foot a little bit. You can circle the ankle. You can change the direction of the ankle circles. And then coming back to center here, you can go ahead and bend that knee again, bend the left knee again. Right leg, if it works for you, straight along the ground, knee and toe points up to the sky, hips and heel press down. And that's actually more important than the leg perfectly straight. So again, if you need to bend the knee, that's fine, but hips and heel presses down. If you want to, with the left knee bent, hug the left knee in towards your left armpit, half of a happy baby-ish pose. And then holding on to the belly of the left thigh if you desire. Shoulders and back of the head stay pressing down. Press the left leg forward and perhaps straighten the left leg some. Pointing and flexing the left foot. Circling the left ankle. And then changing the direction of the ankle circles, breathing. Come back to center here. Hug the knees into the chest, coming into a ball, gently rocking. And then unraveling into center, you can open your hands into a T position. Press the back of the head and shoulders down. If T doesn't work for you, airplane could be a good substitute. Or if you like to do cactus, you can do cactus. Your feet can be up or down, just depending on which you prefer. And then when you're ready, exhale the knees over to the right side. Inhale, up to center. Exhale the knees to the left side. Inhale, up to center. Exhale the knees to the right side, holding your knees to the right side. Left shoulder relaxing down. Maybe turning your gaze and looking over the left shoulder. Breathe. And then inhale, unwind to center. Exhale the knees over to the left. Right shoulder nice and heavy. And maybe letting your gaze drift and looking over the right shoulder. And then inhale up to center. Hug the knees into the chest, coming into a ball, gently rocking. If you want to, open the knees wider apart, pulling both knees towards the armpits as you extend some through the spine. And you can also flip your feet up to the sky, holding onto the back of the knees, the lower legs, or your feet as you rock from side to side. Eventually letting yourself unwind into center and coming into a full body stretch. Stretch the arms up above the head, legs along the ground. Lengthen your tailbone towards your feet. Breathe.